let's talk about a card that was actually really good, and that is, as you said, UFC on ABC or UFC on ABC Holloway versus Kattar, which I prefer. I never like the numbers or the UFC on or UFC at and then number. I always prefer just saying UFC Holloway versus Kattar, Chiesa versus Magny, Poirier versus McGregor. Like that's how because like if you were to say to me, "Hey, what did you think of UFC 233?" I'd be like, "I have no fucking idea who fought on that, but I probably enjoyed it if I knew the main. If you told me who the card was, let's look that up real quick. Let's Google it. UFC 233. Let's see. Oh, Frankie Edgar and the Korean Zombie. Yeah,
Man, why didn't you just say that?
dude. Speaking of fucking, okay, so that was in Busan. That main card was on at 5 a.m. That's funny that I
Oh my
literally
god, yeah.
picked a. Oh, wait, this is saying UFC Fight Night 165. Is that the same as UFC 233? See what I mean?
I
These
forgot they used
these.
to name them with the fight nights. That would happen every week. That's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
Because at least with the pay-per-views, you can kind of recall because they happen once a month, so you can kind of get a grasp of what they are, but not
Oh
the fight
shit.
nights.
Okay, so I was wrong. That was UFC Fight Night 165 in Busan. UFC 233 was canceled. It was supposed to be Cejudo and Dillashaw.
No,
What? What?
you
Why did
picked
it
a cursed card. Did they
why
just
did
skip over
UFC
233?
233 get canceled?
That wasn't because of the pandemic, because that TJ was
No, that was in
banned by then.
2019.
Yeah,
Yeah,
he was gone.
TJ got sent to ban world.
He's
um,
coming back soon. I'm excited to see him and Jose. I think they
yes.
talked about it. I don't know if anything's signed yet, but that's gonna
Um,
be good.
Yeah, I don't know if that's set in stone yet, but that's been the talk.
That's the fight to make.
I literally would like to see TJ against anybody.
Dude
Like
is
anyone
very
is.
talented, fun to watch.
It's just going to be so interesting because
Yeah,
you're going to have so many questions. How long's it been? Two
2 years. Yeah,
years? Whew.
and who knows
Yeah,
if he
that's
was doing anything wacky before he got caught. You know what I'm saying? You know, Cody was always saying he was always on stuff, and
mm-hmm.
you know, I know they missed the substances in the drug tests, but then again, I mean, they usually do miss it when they're cheating. You know what I mean? Like most tests
Yeah.
come back negative, and then there's just that one that comes back positive that they,
Who's to
you
say
know.
how long he was doing it?
So I wonder if he'll get more strict testing now. I think he will. I feel like USADA does, you know, pick and choose who they test more often than not. So I think it'll be fun to see just
How
how
often do you
much he
think
was
they test
cheating.
John Jones? Every
They
day?
tested him. I think they tested him real often. Like someone like Francis Ngannou as well. A lot of the real muscular dudes that you'd think, hey, this guy's on steroids. I'm pretty sure they always comment on how they get tested way more than anybody else. They love to
But
gloat
how would
about it.
they know that at the same time? Like
I'm
how
sure they're
if
friends with these
you're
dudes and they just say maybe they just say that, maybe it's
I
not true. I don't
guess
think they might not even know the specific people that are assigned to, you know, fighter A or fighter B. You know, how would they even know? That's the question.
like if you're Ningano, like how could you say like I get tested more than
Yeah.
Stipe? Like how do you know? Are you
Unless
guys
I don't
talking
know
about it?
if it's like officially released to the public. I don't think it is, but maybe that's how they do it. I've never looked into it, but you
Sometimes the
know,
fighters talk they're open about it. They're
yeah.
like, "Hey, USADA showed up at my door at 3 a.m."
They're
cuz
always picking
it's
fun times to show up,
yeah.
making sure you're not hiding under the octagon in your gym.
Yeah.
People are saying that John Jones's people actually wait there under the octagon for him to crawl under there because they're so used to it by now. Crazy
The
guy.
USADA agents
Speaking of John, real quick, 250 pounds. What happened?
thick.
That's a 250 John Jones is a force to be reckoned with. If I like,
Yeah.
that's just
How tall
scary.
is John? John's got to be like what? Like
I thought he was only
6'5",
6'4".
6'4"?
I
Yeah,
want
I
to say
mean,
6'4".
I'm sure he carries it well.
I'm gonna double check though, because I
John's a
feel like I should
pretty
know this. Yeah,
he's
6'4".
a
Okay,
he's a long dude, you
he's a
know?
long boy, but I'm horrified for the heavyweight division. It's all over.
It's so exciting, dude.
You can't just
Like
take a dude like John and make him 250 or
it's
someone
cheating.
said 240. I don't know what the actual number is.
No, I've been seeing 250.
Okay,
I
okay.
and I've heard 250. Um You
Man,
think he's
that's
gonna
gonna
be
be
like
fun.
Greg Hardy and push the heavyweight limit, have to cut to make it to
He's gonna
heavyweight?
need his inhaler every 5 seconds.
That inhaler adds on 10 pounds, you know.
It does. Speaking of inhalers, I got exhausted just watching the main event yesterday.
Max
That
Holloway,
was
Calvin Kattar.
exhausting to see Max Holloway throw 682 or something like that punches or strikes at Calvin Kattar, which I don't know if is I don't know if that's a record. I think it's definitely close to a record
Well, I know
that
one
he set by
record,
himself. I am I correct on saying that Max holds the record for most strikes thrown in a main event?
probably.
And
I
I
can't
don't.
say that for sure, but
Yeah.
probably.
So wow, that performance last night might
I
have
know a
been.
record he did break. He broke the record for most UFC fights never being knocked down. It's like
Oh,
24 fights. Uh, yeah, Max has never been knocked out, which is wild. Um, yeah, a 50-42 scorecard. I've never heard that. You never
that
hear those
is
scorecards
that has to be a
because
record.
you know why you never hear those scorecards? Because fights that would be that score get stopped. And this one is probably also should have been stopped. Fourth round at the absolute latest. I'm not sure why you had that continue. I don't really get it. If you're Calvin Cater's corner, um, I don't understand what exactly you thought was going to happen in that fifth round, you know?
Yeah.
Like what? Like you really thought he was gonna pull a knockout just out of his ass? Like, come on,
To be
man. He was,
fair, Calvin was landing semi-successfully at various times throughout the
but it
round.
wasn't doing anything.
No, I saw like Max's leg like wobble a little bit, but that probably was nothing. I don't think he really got phased at all by most of the punches. And even that, yeah, compared to the injuries that Calvin had, letting him go out there is just probably not the right move.
Here's the thing about Max too. He absorbs more strikes than the average fighter. It's something like four strikes per minute, which is pretty above average. Um, and then alongside that, you have the whole never been knocked down statistic, right? So there's something remarkable about this guy's chin. And maybe that has something to do with the fact that he doesn't spar. Who knows? Uh, but at the end of the day, Calvin Kattar was throwing every possible thing he had at him, and he was landing semi-successfully, like you said. Um, and Max was had his hands down and was just rolling with the punches, talking to the commentary booth. You know, like there was nothing happening there. That's probably the most 10-8 rounds you'll ever see in a fight that actually goes the distance. Um, yeah, I mean, I think you could have stopped it when Max was throwing all those elbows up against when he had Calvin like pinned up against the fence and was just throwing elbow after elbow after elbow after elbow. I think if you're Herb Dean, you probably could have stopped it then. I think if you're his corner, you could have stopped it between the fourth and fifth round. There's no real reason that fifth round had to happen. Uh, yeah, I mean, this fight really did need to go to decision. I don't know what you were trying to prove with that. But you got to give Calvin Gator credit. The dude has incredible heart and toughness. And I know he said to Dana after the fight, like, that's not what I want to be known for. And I
Mm,
understand. I feel bad for the dude. He just got a beating yesterday, like a real bad beating. And there's something worse about sustaining that 25-minute beating and it going to the scorecards and it being 50-42 than just getting, than just a stoppage. There's something just worse about that. Not only in terms of how much punishment he took and how much damage he sustained, but there's something worse about the I don't know. I have to imagine Calvin Cater is very embarrassed right now, and I feel for him. I feel real bad
hmm
for him. That sucks. I feel bad that he got so tuned up in that fight. I mean, it wasn't even fair. It wasn't even competitive. Max is just on another level. When he says I'm the best boxer in the UFC, I believe him. I agree with that.
hmm
I think he's the best boxer. I think he's one of the best strikers in the UFC today.
Well, we can't forget what happened to Brian Ortega. He was kind of known as the guy that got absolutely obliterated by Max Holloway. And then, look what he just did. He came back and made a new name for himself. Whether or not he would, you know, have another go at Max Holloway is another story. But I think Calvin still has like a path to redemption. I just think
Hmm.
I love to talk about damage. I think I might talk about it too much, but I feel like you can't mention this fight without mentioning the massive amount of damage that he took and just how long he's gonna have to recover from that. I think you're gonna see a similar situation to Brian Ortega's. Um,
Long layoff.
yeah, long layoff. I think he'll come back. I think he'll still be very high end fighter, definitely up there in the rankings. But man, how could you take that much damage and not go down and not take yourself out of the fight? Not through force, but through just, like, hey, I need to get out of here. I'm taking, a significant amount of damage that's only getting exponentially worse. And
Hmm.
yeah, I think if I were Calvin, I would have said, okay, it's not my fight. I'm going to get out of
Hmm.
here, cut my losses before I take, another 200 blows to the head.
Well, he was too tough for his own
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
That's
And you
essentially
see
what it
that.
came
And
down to, as DC was
yeah.
saying during the
And
commentary.
I did want to mention he did land a world record in the UFC, 445 significant strikes out of 744. So I guess the official statistics are a little bit different from the unofficial ones that we saw. So
Yeah,
he
yeah,
actually threw 744. Oh, that's just unreal to me. 445
yeah.
significant strikes. Think about that. I mean, Calvin landed 133, which is kind of nuts too, but still,
Yeah, I mean,
four times your output is just that's insane to me.
I guess fighting is easy when you just never stop punching. Right? I mean, the guy never stops punching. It's like if you're playing the UFC game and you just disable the stamina feature, so you could just keep spamming square X, square X, square X, square X, and just never stop because stamina doesn't exist. That's essentially what Max was doing. Um, Insane, otherworldly cardio. Um, Volume just out the ass. Strike variety, he was going to the body a lot, which was cool to see. He was throwing a lot of leg kicks. He was throwing some spinning back kicks to the body, which was cool. He was throwing a few spinning back fists, I think. I don't know if any of them really landed. Um, just extremely accurate, precise, fast striking. And I mean, volume is the name of the game with him, right? Like
Hmm.
it's not about finding that one shot that puts you down. It's not about um, picking and choosing and only throwing it. It's about throwing, 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 and just never giving your opponent a chance to mount any sort of offense. And when they do, you just you just roll with it. Literally, you just roll with it, and it doesn't seem to phase you. That is Max Holloway. Um, I I don't know. Like I'm kind of at a loss for words with this guy. John Anik said he thinks it's the best UFC performance he's ever seen, and I don't necessarily disagree. It's one of the best I've ever seen for sure. As long as I've been watching the sport, have I seen every fight? No. Have I witnessed every fighter perform? No. But I mean, I don't know how you deny that this isn't one of the greatest UFC main event performances ever. Like it's unbelievable. I can't wrap my head around how this guy was able to do what he did, you know?
It doesn't make logical sense when I watch Max in the fifth round throw punches and combinations the exact same way that he does in the first round.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense on how well his cardiovascular system is trained. I cannot understand it at all. I watch him leave the octagon after the fight, just dancing, not even breathing that hard at all. It's like this wasn't even difficult for him. Like he didn't put it all out there because he doesn't have the opportunity to. His body physically doesn't allow him to throw punches fast enough to tire himself out, which is just it's otherworldly, and it makes me think that is he even human? Is this man a human being? It doesn't
It
seem
it
humanly possible to do this kind of stuff. And it makes me wonder, how much does this man train, and how is he so different from every other fighter? And I know his build allows him to be more successful with this kind of volume fighting, but at the same time, that doesn't mean he's going to be completely successful at it. This man must train 24/7.
I'll be honest
It's
with you,
insane.
dude. It seems, I know this is a meme to say this. It feels like he just built different.
Yeah, he's built
It
different
it
because he's not a human being.
it
He's otherworldly.
like this is the kind of thing where it feels like of course he trains and he's worked hard to get here and everything, but it feels like he was just kind of born this way. It feels like he was born with this gift and just so happens to hone it and find himself in the right line of work. Like he was born to
Hmm.
be a fighter, and um, there's something to be said about just this innate ability and this uh, just this raw talent that he was born with. And I tend to think, obviously, I don't know this for sure because I'm not him. I'm not close friends with him. I don't know him personally. I feel like he's a guy that just has his life really together and is happy. He strikes me as just a very, very happy,
Mm.
content individual. Of course, I don't know that. He could be, maybe he's not. But I tend to think he's a very happy, content guy that loves life, and that feeds into his just monumental achievements in his athletic career and feeds into his unbelievable performances. Like he seems to have a wonderful relationship with his son. He seems to be a great father. Seems to be very happy, content in life. He has a ridiculously beautiful fiance. Like, have you seen this woman that he is marrying? Oh my god, it's not even fair, dude. Like Max Holloway's got the life. He plays tons of fucking video games all the time. Like he just seems like he's got it all together and everything's going well for him. And I don't know. I tend to think that that kind of just contentment in his personal life, and he seems like he surrounds himself with really good people, really good team, really good training partners. I think that all just feeds into having a really successful athletic fighting career. I I think that's a huge part of it.
Going back to the fight, aside from all of that, I want to talk about, like, I guess you could say the elephant in the room, the thing that a lot of mainstream people are talking about. Obviously, fight fans are talking about. Everybody's talking about it. The fact that he's yelling to the commentating booth during the fight, looking away from Calvin Kattar while dodging and slipping his punches and counter punching him while not
Mm-hmm.
even looking at him. What a brilliant ending to that fifth round and the whole fight together. Um, you say all like, he's such like a nice guy outside of the octagon and all that, but then you see him inside the octagon in this complete zen mode where he's just totally in there. He's living in the moment, and he's like charging up like a cartoon character or something. I know a lot of
Yeah.
people were comparing him to like Goku or something like that, and I got to admit that was the wildest thing I've ever seen in a UFC fight. I think talking to the commentators, not talking, yelling to the commentators about how good you are as you're doing this head movement from another world. I mean, I what did you think of that when
I
you were
think
watching that?
I interpreted that as Max Holloway is mad. And he's not mad at Calvin Kattar necessarily. Um, I think it, despite what he says, I think it really fucking eats at him that he is not champion right now. I think it really gets to him, and I think he feels like that second Volk fight was stolen from him, and he's going in there and he is proving that he is the best featherweight in the world. Like, I understand he's not the champion, but how can you watch what you watched yesterday and say this guy is not the best featherweight in the world? How can you say he's not one of the best fighters on the planet right now, you know? Like, hey, don't get me wrong, Alexander Volkanovski, whether you disagree with it or not, or whether you agree with it or disagree with it, you know, he won the 2 fights. He won them fair and square, so you can't dig on him too much. Um, but have you ever seen Alexander Volkanovski do anything like this?
No, no, I have
No, dude,
not.
not even close. Like, between the Ortega fight, the 2 Volkanovski fights, this fight, um, the guy looks kind of untouchable, and you know, even the 2 fights that he lost to Volkanovski, he didn't get like beaten, you know, like
Mm,
it um it feels to me like there's a fire inside Max Holloway to get that title back, because man, if he can get that title back, I don't know who the fuck beats him. I don't know if anyone does. Like, I it feels like these Volk fights were almost like a fluke, and he lost by the skin of his teeth. Um, and if he can get that title back, man, I don't see it going anywhere for a long ass time. I don't see it going anywhere until Max Holloway says I'm done, I'm vacating. like it, I the guy is unbelievable, and I think um I don't know how you could say he doesn't deserve another title shot, whomever that may be against, whether it's a third Volk fight, whether it's a Brian Ortega fight, whether it's a whatever fight. Max Holloway's next fight needs to be a title shot. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about
mm.
it. Um, and I don't think they'll deny him that. I'm sure Dana White sees it
Yeah, I think
the
he
same
said
way.
that he's going to fight the winner of Ortega versus Volkanovski. So he's definitely getting the recognition he deserves from the big man Dana White.
When is the Volk Ortega fight happening?
I am not sure if it's set in stone yet. I'm not entirely sure. I want to say it's happening in March, early March. Um,
I think you're right.
but I just think that the momentum between the soon to be trilogy between Max and Volkanovski, if Volkanovski beats Ortega, which I think is likely to happen. I just think Volkanovski will. I don't think
I
he'll
I agree.
dominate Ortega. I just think
March
he'll
March
be
27th.
okay. March 27th. I think Volkanovski is just going to be one step ahead of Ortega, just because he has a much more well-rounded tool set. Just
Mm-hmm.
Brian has shown to us though that he's always ready to surprise us and to give us something that we weren't expecting. So who knows? But
Were you
assuming that
surprised?
what's that?
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry.
Assuming that Volkanovski beats Ortega, um, I just think the momentum is shifting well into Max Holloway's favor. You watch the first fight, you say, okay, Volkanovski, he outpointed him, he beat him fair and square. Okay. You watch the second fight, you see Max
Mm-hmm.
arguably beat him much
Yes.
closer to the first fight, if that. I mean, that's all you really need to see. It was a better performance than their first bout. Now you see a Volkanovski going on a slight decline, slight, very very slight decline, and now you see Max Holloway going on a tremendous incline.
Right.
And I just think that this Max Holloway that we're seeing now, that we just saw versus Kattar, and we saw during the second Volkanovski fight, he's only getting much better. Not that
Mm-hmm.
Volkanovski isn't. I just think Max is improving at a much higher rate. And it's crazy to think that Max can even improve to where he was, because before this, when he was champion, we all thought he was unbeatable. Now he gets beaten. So what does he do? He actually gets better than we even
Yeah.
thought was possible. So I think you're going to see this trilogy, if it plays out that way. I think you're definitely going to see Max get the title again.
Yeah.
Because just, I mean, look at the
Guy's not
guy.
even 30 yet. He's not
No,
even 30,
he's
Matthew.
got the
That's
heart. No,
insanity.
he's got the heart. He's got
He's
the
fucking
genes.
29 years old.
He's got the body, the heart.
This dude's 8
He's
years
got
older than
everything.
me.
Yeah.
He's 8 years older than me. Look what he's done with his life, and look what I've done.
What were you saying?
He's
Was I surprised about
Were you
Ortega?
surprised? Yes. Were you
Yeah. Oh,
surprised about
yes.
Ortega Volkanovski? Yeah, I kind of was too.
I
It
think
feels early,
it
right? It
does.
feels a little
Yeah,
premature.
because the Korean Zombie, as good as he is, you know, That's only one example, one fight.
Right.
Maybe, just maybe, Brian Ortega is just a very bad matchup for the Korean Zombie. He just maybe he doesn't like his striking. He's not very good at specifically what Ortega does. You know, that's always possible. You have stylistic matchups that are bad for fighters that you don't really anticipate.
Hmm.
So you might be seeing this Ortega thing as, oh, this I got really lucky with this matchup. And then you see him fight someone else, and he just gets dominated like he did by Max Holloway. So I feel like a sample size of one just isn't good enough to warrant him a title shot. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
I know he beat a lot of people in the past before he got obliterated by Max, but one fight. I know you're saying, oh, the 2 year layoff and all that, but I and that's great. I just think you need at least one more fight, maybe two. One fight against a very high ranking opponent, maybe two fights against some lower level people.
Yeah.
But I just the one fight back and then thrown into a title shot seems like something that they did to like Darren Till when they tried to give him a title shot versus Tyron Woodley. You have this
Yeah.
star potential and you don't want to throw it away. You just kind of want to slowly feed it like it's a flower. You don't want to dump
It
the whole water bucket onto your flower.
right.
It's gonna
It
die.
does feel it does feel a little premature. I think the position they found themselves in was, damn, Volk hasn't defended his title in a while. We need to give him a fight. But Jesus, are we gonna do a third Max Holloway fight? Like that seems overkill, right? And a third Max Holloway fight in a row would have been overkill. Now we wouldn't say so after this Calvin Kattar performance, but a third in a row that would have been a little much. And if you're Volk,
Right.
that's very frustrating. Um, but I think they found themselves in this position where, well, who else do we give them? Zabit? Like who are we gonna give them? Oh, this guy, this other featherweight just had a tremendous performance. Let's do that. I think that was the position they found themselves
Mm.
in. Was Volk needs to fight, but it can't be Max. Who can it be? And it was the guy that just had a great 5 round performance against the Zombie, who is no, that's no small feat, of course. But it does at the same time feel a bit premature. I mean, Ortega just coming off a 2 year layoff, uh, does put up an outstanding performance, but at this, while it feels premature, now the more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, Volk needed to defend this title, but who is he going to defend it against? That's not Max Holloway, you know? Like it,
It definitely
they
makes
were
sense, but
they were
yeah,
they were stuck in a rock and a hard place.
it makes sense when you consider the lack of other options. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but now, Max is definitely gonna need some time to heal up. Like this, despite how dominant of a fight that was, like you look at him after the fight, it's like, whoa, his face is fucking marked up. Like he got hit a bit. Like you wouldn't know it in the fight, given the way he just seemed to run through these punches like they were nothing. But then you look at his face after the fight, and it's like, oh, he did absorb some damage, and you know, not to say I don't think he would be ready to go again in another month or so, but yeah, I mean, do the Volk Ortega fight at the end of March, March 27th. Um, and then winner of that, you gotta give to Max in the summer, May, June,
Hmm.
July, somewhere around there. Uh, yeah, I mean, I want to see Max Holloway be champion again.
Hmm.
I really do, because I just adore this guy. Like I love everything about him. I love the way he fights. I love his personality. I love the way he showboats in while he's in the octagon, but isn't like,
He's kind of
a crazy.
respectful about it almost. You
He
know what I mean?
Yeah, and he's not like a huge trash talker outside
Yeah.
of the octagon. Um, I love the way he carries himself in his personal life. I love how he fucking messes people up in Warzone. I love absolutely everything about Max Holloway. He's one of my favorite fighters of all time. Uh, I put him up there in terms of my personal all-time favorites. I put him up there against Cowboy, Paul Felder, Rory McDonald, uh, Stipe. He's just one of the best I've ever seen, and I absolutely love the guy. And wow, that there is there's so much to be said about that performance, but so little that you could put into words. There's so much that you could express about how incredible of a performance that was, but at the same time, it's difficult to find words for how incredible it was.
Yeah, I think you're right. It doesn't get better than this guy, and watching him is a true spectacle every time. And I think
Hmm.
you're gonna see Max become one of the biggest stars in the UFC at some point. If I mean, he's already one of the biggest stars in my opinion. He's got the love of fans from just about everywhere. It's kind of, even Kattar said himself, it's kind of hard to hate this guy.
Yeah.
Even he loves him, and he just got murked by him for 25 minutes. So
Yeah,
I think
no,
that speaks
nobody
volumes to Max Holloway's just
nobody
pure
dislikes
likableness.
Max Holloway. You're a
Yeah.
fucking villain if you dislike Max Holloway. I'm sure even Volkanovski likes Max
No,
Holloway.
yeah, I
If he,
remember him saying he really admires him, and he does like him a lot. Um,
yeah, I mean
yeah,
you can't. If you dislike him, there's something wrong with you.
you're
You
lying
need
to
to
yourself if you
you need to
dislike
look
him.
you need to look inward if you have a problem with Max Holloway. You need to re-examine yourself because you just hate people then. You're just an asshole.
Max is he's the people's champion of the featherweight division.
Yeah, he is. He
He's
really
an absolute
that's true.
legend.
I kind of feel bad for Volkanovski because he
Yeah,
didn't do any.
yeah,
Volkanovski never did anything wrong,
no,
Like it's
not
not
at
like he
all.
went
Yeah,
in there and fucking kicked him in the nuts and poked him in the eye until he got the title. Like Volkanovski has fought both of these fights fair and square. He
yeah.
earned his position. He's earned to be champion. He has. Uh, whether or not you agree with the judges, that's a different story. But Volk doesn't have anything to do with that. He's gone in there and done his job both times, and prior to that, same thing. Gone in and done his job and earned his opportunities. So you can't give shit to Volkanovski. You can't. Yeah, I mean that's it. You can't give shit to Volkanovski. As much as I love Max Holloway, as much as you all might love Max Holloway, you gotta also give Volkanovski the respect he deserves.
Not many people out there could say that they beat this man twice. That's a feat. That's
Yeah,
unmatched. This
and
kind of
again, you
talent.
might you might disagree with the scorecards, and I would agree with you to disagree with the scorecards, but he did it fair and square. Like
Hmm.
he's it. There's nothing.
Don't blame
There's
him. Blame the
nothing.
judges if you disagree,
Yeah,
because he
yeah.
did
Don't hate
everything
don't
everything
hate the
right.
player. Hate the game.
Yeah. A lot of people do hate the game if you're talking about the judges, that's for sure. A bit of
Oh,
a love-hate
absolutely.
relationship with the judges.
Absolutely. I
Oh
mean, I
man.
don't blame them. The judges
No.
are fucking blind half the time.
Also speaking of
Speaking of
judges,
that,
42. Is that the lowest score in a 5-round main event?
well, like
Fifty
I said, you
forty-two.
never hear those scores because the fights never go that long
True,
because they get
yeah.
stopped like they should.
I think the last
um,
time this happened I read was 2006. I'm not sure if that's correct, but we got Max Holloway again setting more records in the last 14 years, I guess you
do
could
you
say.
know who the 2006 fight was that
I don't.
the
I could
score?
check really quick though.
Speaking of judges, just shifting real quick to the co-main event, what did you think about that scorecard, Carlos Condit, Matt Brown? Because Matt Brown had a real problem with it.
Oh, he had a problem with the decision.
Well,
I did
it,
too. I think he won the first round.
yeah,
Definitely. And I saw it was 30-27 across the board. And I guess
yeah,
that's because Carlos reversed the position like in the last 10 seconds.
I guess.
And I was thinking to myself, like, I bet the judges are going to give this to Carlos. And I don't think they should. No. I think Carlos got the second two rounds.
Hmm.
The second was very close. I'd say it was 19-19 going into the third. So the ending decision was fine in my opinion. But to give Matt Brown nine a 9-10 in the first, that's just, there's something wrong
Yeah,
there. Matt
yeah.
was
He
better on
he.
the feet and had ground control for the majority of the fight. Where do you get your decisions from, judges? I
Yeah,
don't get that.
yeah. Matt didn't seem to have a problem with the overall decision. I think he would agree with you that
Yeah.
Carlos won the fight, but he did have a problem with losing that first round. And I understand because you could chalk it up to just, well, the right guy won, so who cares? Yeah, you could say that, I guess, but giving Carlos that first round speaks to the judge's decision making a little bit into their to their judgment. It speaks to the judge's judgment. Like, it's a bad look
Yeah, it's
because
terrible. Yeah.
it's very clear that he did not win that round. So I mean, this is of course I'm glad the right guy won. I'm glad Carlos got the win because he deserved it. Like you said, he won rounds 2 and 3 easily. Um, but Matt Brown won round one easily, and it says something about your judgment when you look at that fight and see a 30-27 because it seems like a pretty clear 29-28. And as far as I know, there were no like crazy bad egregious decisions on this card, uh, but it's a little concerning when you see
Mhm.
that.
That's an egregious error. It takes like a serious lack of judgment to give Matt Brown a loss in that. They must have not been paying attention for the first 4 minutes and 50 seconds of the first round because it makes absolutely no logical sense to me.
Yeah,
I thought I missed something when I saw that. I was like, should I go back and watch this? And I'm like, no, I had my eyes open. I clearly saw that Matt Brown won that, but what are you gonna do?
it's weird,
Yeah,
man. Like
it's strange.
um you said you want to talk about the
Oh
Santiago
yes, yeah.
Ponzinibbio
Before that though,
Jingliang fight.
the last time we had a
Oh yes.
50-42 was in 2006, Rich Franklin versus David Lusso.
Huh.
And David was only a moderate underdog, it says here in the betting odds, but 50-42, I mean, you know what that means.
Damn. Was this
So,
a oh,
yeah,
never mind. I was just about to ask the dumbest question ever. We're not even gonna
it's
acknowledge what
okay.
I was
I
about to
know.
say.
I know what you're about to
I
say.
was
It's
about to
okay.
You were about to ask. Yeah, I was about to say, was it a three
Yeah.
round or a 5 round
Yeah.
fight?
No, dude, trust me, I'm also equally as stupid. Anyway, so there's some controversy brewing about Kyle and the Santiago Ponzinibbio fight versus
I have not
Li
heard
Jing
about
Li
this.
Lang. Well, this is the reason.
The
So the evidence
stoppage?
is okay. So the evidence is all there.
Oh,
So let me run you through what happened. Okay. So the leech Lee, right? That's his name.
yes.
He throws a combination, right? This is the one that people say knocked out Santiago Ponzinibbio. So what happened was he throws the combination. I believe it was the cross that knocked him down, right? Yeah, it was something like
I
it
get.
was a
I
left hook
don't.
into a cross off the cage that it knocked Santiago down. But what you
Okay.
didn't see is that didn't actually hit Santiago. It grazed him and he slipped. So he falls onto the ground. Jason Hergog Jason
Ergot.
Herzog goes in there to check on him just to say hello. Stops the fight. But what you don't see after that is Santiago Ponzinibbio, while he's laying there, just hanging out, the leech is violently tapping on his abdomen. Let me tell you something about MMA, Kyle. When you do that, when you tap on someone, that means you're being submitted and you want them to stop submitting you.
Yes. Yes.
So my argument here is that the leech
The leech got
was
tapped.
Yeah, he tapped out to Santiago
Clearly
Ponzinibbio.
felt a tap.
It must have been some kind of Von Flue choke. You didn't see much movement in Santiago. I'm not sure why, but you clearly saw a tap. Another thing like this that happened in the past was Alistair Overeem has a lot of these kind of moments, and I would have to agree with him. So I'm a bit concerned that they got this wrong, and I feel like I'll make a video about this, just highlighting what I'm saying here, because it's kind of hard to visualize when I'm just describing it to you. So I'll get the evidence out there and I'll send it to Dana and let him have a look at
Okay.
it. Okay?
All right.
But that's
I
all I
thought you
wanted to
were
mention.
being. I thought you were being serious earlier
Oh,
when
I'm
you said
dead
there was some
serious.
controversy.
You're gonna see the
When you said there
video.
was
I'm
some
gonna highlight
controversy.
everything for you, and you're gonna believe me by the end of it. Okay? So look
Dude,
out for that.
for a minute, I was believing you when you said the shot grazed Santiago, and I was like, wait, did it? Because I know Santiago had a real problem with that stoppage. Was he actually not out? Do I need to go back and rewatch this? But then I remember Dana in the fucking post-fight press conference being like, oh yeah, that was a terrific stoppage. Like he.
Dana is a paid shill. I'm also going to add that evidence in the video. Link down below.
There's
not going to be a
definitely
link.
not gonna link that.
But I'm going to make a video. I'm going to highlight
Okay.
every part of it, and you guys are going to agree with me. Just wait.
Okay.
But other than that, other than the controversy, though, yeah, not a good look for Santiago coming off that 3.
Yeah.
Was it 3 years he was out?
2, I
Or 2?
think.
Okay, so yeah, not a good look for him
Yeah.
off that win streak. So
Rough. Rough night.
Yeah.
Speaking of rough nights, Joaquin Buckley, man,
Ooh.
R.I.P. that hype train. Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean, he
it.
did just lose to Kevin Holland, right? And then you got that victory versus Impa. Is
Yeah,
that the timeline? And now he
I, I,
loses to
th-
the
I
Italian
think
guy.
let's look. I think it was lost to Holland, 2 wins,
Okay.
Impa, and then Jordan Wright.
Oh, okay. So he was
Yeah,
on like a little win streak. Okay.
he was on a 2 fight win streak. So he lost to Kevin Holland in August, then goes on, gets knockout of the year against Impa Kasaganai, and then gets another great knockout against Jordan Wright of um, Contender Series alum,
Yeah.
and then Alessio de Circo, Circio,
D
Circo,
Firenze.
Di Firenze, yeah, uh,
Albizzi.
gets head kicked. Rough.
Brutal head kick. Like, ugh. That
That
was
is
a brutal
that is the
exchange.
MMA gods in a nutshell, right?
Yeah.
Like you're on top of the world 1 second, and then you're getting head kicked by some Italian douche.
He thought
That's
it was football. You saw the memes I sent you. He thought he was playing a game of football. Oh
oh,
no.
she's not happy about the Joaquin Buckley hype train derailment.
The thing about
Uh,
golden retrievers that you have to understand is they have a natural affinity towards Joaquin Buckley. So obviously
mm,
she's going to be upset. You know, you can hear her right now speaking her mind. Do
yeah,
you have
she's
anything
going.
you want to say, Willow?
Other than that, Punahele Soriano had a really, really nice performance over Dusko Todorovic. Uh, yeah, I mean, just went in there, was hitting him with bombs, knocked him down a few times, and eventually got stopped towards the end of the first round. Really nice work from Punahele. I believe that's also a Contender Series alum. He is now undefeated, an undefeated middleweight. A lot of great middleweights up and coming lately. That division is getting a little spicy towards the bottom half. A lot of really nice talent coming up there in that division. But yeah, great performance by Punahele. Had a pretty unremarkable post-fight interview where he just didn't really say anything noteworthy. I thought it was a good opportunity to really put himself out there and call out someone, but he just didn't do that.
Sometimes
Whatever.
you fall flat on your face, in that post-fight interview. It happens.
It does. It
You
does.
know, the main objective is to win the fight, and once you do that, I imagine that adrenaline dump must just kind of exhaust you. So some
Yeah,
people
it's
take
got
it
to be
worse than
hard.
others.
It's got to be hard after you just get a awesome knockout and you're
Yeah.
just flying through the roof to like put together coherent
Yeah.
thoughts and like be a salesperson,
Yeah, that's a
at
little.
that.
That's why I would love to just have some of like the coaches like take over maybe, especially of these fighters that are exhausted and can't speak at all, and they're
Like
just
Curtis
for
Blades.
yeah they're
Remember that
just
Curtis
forcing
Blades
them.
interview?
He looked like he was dying. Yeah, I don't know why they don't have the coaches kind of take over for them a little bit. Maybe like before the fight, maybe say, hey, if I win and I'm exhausted, maybe you take over for me. I have a record of not being able to speak after my fights. You think you'd have a contingency plan here, but I guess not. It's something to think about.
Alessio has been boycotting his interviews and media obligations because he believes the losers should also be interviewed, and he doesn't think it's right that MMA media and commentators and such only talk to the winners of fights because, as he says, it's a two-person sport, and you should acknowledge the losers as well.
Well, the reason they don't do that, football boy, is that, after being obliterated by a head kick, you aren't the most coherent and logical uh,
Right,
after that kind of trauma. So
right.
it's not
It's a
a,
nice
it's a
sentiment. I
not,
get where he's
yeah,
coming
if,
from.
if you don't get blasted, I agree with you. But you
Hmm.
can't expect someone who just got extreme head trauma, you can't trust them, you know what I mean, to say what they actually would want to say if they weren't
Yeah,
traumatized
you're
by the
putting
head
that
trauma.
person in a bad
Yeah,
position
that you're setting
on
them up for
television.
failure in a lot of ways because then they're gonna make a fool out of themselves. Because I mean, it's
Yeah,
not their fault. They don't know what's going on. They just
and
yeah,
it's also you also have to think about the TV production side of it. Like I don't think time is allotted for that.
yes, exactly, yeah,
Dana was saying how they if they didn't finish on time last night on ABC, they just would have moved on to the next program. Like if they went overtime, like, hey, sorry, UFC, sorry you were enjoying that Max Holloway performance. Here's the Goldbergs. Like that's,
That's what happens
that's
in the UK a lot of the time. I've
that's how it
heard.
works on
Yeah,
network television.
yeah.
Uh, so I don't. I think that's also a part of it. Is that from a production standpoint, doesn't really allow for it. Can you imagine how much of a fucking drag that would be too? Oh my god. If you had to do 2 interviews after every fight.
I mean, they used to, but like in the main events, not like not like every fight. I don't know if
Yeah,
Alessio wants every fight to be like that. I'm
I
assuming that's
think
what he means, but
I think main events it's fine.
yeah, and I'm surprised they interviewed Calvin Cater, but he was surprisingly coherent and he did speak well, so I guess it was for the
Yeah,
best. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I think he was more or less okay. He didn't get put out cold or anything. Um, yeah, I mean, nice sentiment from Alessio, but I don't see that being a reality anytime soon.
Yeah.
I think there's too many reasons to not do it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
too
no,
many
I,
good
I agree
reasons to
with you
not do it.
completely. It's a very interesting strategy, boycotting the media, but I
Yeah, I mean,
respect the man for actually doing something about what he wants, so good for him.
yeah.
Football Italian guy. That's what people are remembering you by.
Well, Matthew, I think we should wrap it up there.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think we should too. Willow is itching to fight, so I'm gonna go
hmm
take her out, let her, bark at
Willow
nothing.
looking for a fight. That's the
Willow,
new show on
she's
ESPN.
pissed. She's ready.
hmm
Well, thank you for watching, Ren. Have yourselves a good day. We'll see you next week.
For the Connor
The
Dustin
Connor
fight.
Dustin. Now that's gonna be a fun, very fun,
So
enjoyable
exciting.
night because that card is just off the rails. So we'll
So
we'll be back for that.
exciting.
Don't worry.
Oh, don't you worry, all of our 34 subscribers.
Don't you worry.
Bye bye.
We won't keep you hanging. All right. Bye bye.